Okay, so here we are. Everything's, all the buttons are pushed, so we're fine now. So I'm Judy of Divina Cucina, and I'm so happy today to have Jenn Campus as my guest from Sardegna. Jenn, how are you?
Hi, Judy. I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, fine. This is great. I love the magic of internet now. It's so much fun because we've known each other for like a million years when you
I know, it's like
the leftover queen of blogging. And
yes,
that's when I first met you. I think when you had that, you were like the first people to set up those programs to get people, cooks together and bloggers together.
yeah, definitely. I like building communities. It's fun to get a lot of people with the same interests together, just to be able to, you know, share ideas and get to know each other and just have fun, really.
And so what year did you?
Yeah, I think it was 12 years ago that we met.
Wow.
Sorry.
How is that even possible? I've been in Italy now for 37 years. And I can't be that old.
Wow.
So when did you actually move to Sardegna?
We actually moved here in September of 2018. And then we went on hiatus for a little bit and went to Brussels for a few years. And then we just came back. It's been almost a year that we've been back. So we're here now. And I think this is, as far as anybody can read the future, this is like, we're done with moving to different places and we're staying put.
That's great.
So we have, you know, yeah, we have kids who are 5 and 7. So I think, you know, laying down a foundation that is stable for them at this point is good for now.
Yeah, it's so important. I remember my parents moved me when I think I was 13 and I've never gotten over it. It is.
Yeah, that is a tough age to move.
Jenn, tell everybody about what you're doing now.
What am I doing now? Well, I mean, right now I am being very inspired by being back in Sardinia, and I'm getting back in touch with a lot of my favorite activities to do here, which is to be out in nature, which is really easy to do in Sardinia. And I think it became all the more precious after beginning the pandemic in a tiny apartment in Brussels that did not get any sunlight. And we were literally like locked inside this urban apartment for almost 3 months. And so when they lifted some of the travel bans last summer, we just decided, you know what, let's go to Sardinia for 6 weeks. Let's just spend the summer because we need to breathe fresh air. We need to see the mountains and the sea. And just, you know, have some nature time, because everyone in my family are very much into being outside and being with nature. So one of our favorite family activities to do is to go on walks in the countryside here, which is all vineyards, because we are in the wine country part of Sardinia. In fact, we make some of the best wines in Italy here in this town. And I can see one of the cantinas right outside my kitchen window, which is pretty cool. I'm having some of their wine right now in a little cup. And while we go on these great walks, there's amazing plants everywhere. Sardinia, and probably, I imagine, much of Italy is not like the United States, in which things are very carefully manicured. So part of the fun about being here is that you get to see plants really go through all their stages of life, which I don't know if everybody is as excited about that as I am, but I tend to really enjoy that a lot. And I'm learning a lot more about the plants that way, because it's really hard not to notice them when you're out walking around. So that's what I am and I have my little sprig of St. Johns Wort here today, because Judy and I, through our conversations over the last week setting up this event, we were talking a little bit about St. Johns Wort. So I thought in her honor, I would wear a little bit tonight for our chat.
I almost wanted to make a little crown today, but I didn't want to tear apart my plant. because magically I just have
Me
one.
too.
One that came in my front yard here all by itself. I mean, I'm in the middle of the countryside too, so we have my husband. We have a little garden, but we don't really. We just give it to the bees. So it's like there's red poppies and forage, and I planted lavender and I have rosemary. I have herbs and stuff like that, but we don't. We leave it for the bees. So it's just kind of wild.
That's important work. Yeah,
but we don't have bees
to do stuff with the bees. I love bees. Bees are like one of my major obsessions, and in fact, we have no space really to speak of outdoors, which is okay because, like I said, we're surrounded by beautiful countryside. But we do have a small little area outside that's mostly like the wrought iron fencing. So we just over the last couple of weekends hung a bunch of flower boxes and just filled them with flowers and herbs. Yeah, and so I call it our secret garden, but it's also mostly for the bees, but it's really makes sitting out there much more enjoyable and much prettier.
Do you have herbs?
It's fun. And I have a little arugula. Yeah, I have some arugula that because I'm obsessed with arugula, and it is not easy to find it super locally here. And we've had all different series of lockdowns over the past year. So sometimes we weren't allowed to leave our town for, a couple weeks at a time. Yeah. So I was arugula deprived. So I went ahead and planted some of that, but we also have basil and sage and rosemary and parsley. So yeah, I just kind of tucked everything in together, flowers, herbs. I even put some beans and peppers and just like put everything all together. Yeah, it is really fun. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with a container garden. I mean, I really thought we had no space, but we actually found that we have quite a lot,
you have things that go up and things that go out.
Yes. Yeah, it's like very much a vertically minded garden. So yeah.
I just found cilantro seeds and planted cilantro. So being from California, I love Mexican food.
Oh gosh, cilantro is so good. Yeah, that's nice. I know. I always see you making your tortillas and guacamole.
We're lucky because now Sicily grows pasta avocados.
Yeah, I know, which is awesome.
So it's not traveling that far,
Yeah.
So tell people about your website.
Exactly. My website. Yeah. So I really, I owe a lot to Sardinia. I'm really devoted to this island, even though I've only lived here for like 2 years, because it's impossible to go anywhere without seeing the flowers and the plants, like I mentioned, but also so much building from the megalithic culture that was here, the Nuragic culture that was here. I mean, we have over 7,000 megalithic sites on this island, which is like way more than the typical places that you think that have megalithic sites, like the UK and Ireland and, maybe parts of Spain and France. And so, while I'm out there playing with the plants and the herbs and things, and just looking at all of these amazing structures, it just made me think so much about, who were these people that lived here, and who are these people that built these sites? Because it's still a mystery. People are still speculating about it because, these things were not written down at the time. And so it really got me thinking about how we're still so connected to older times. And I think that that's true no matter where you live, whether you live in a place like Sardinia that's covered with megaliths, or whether you're, in the US or Canada or Australia or wherever, we're always connected to the older times through the earth, through the plants. And so I kind of just started getting a passion for all of that and putting it all together with my food writing, which, as we said, that's how we met. And I've been doing that for over a decade. And starting to think about the history of food, culinary anthropology. I'm an anthropologist. That's what I went to university for. So it's thinking about how all these things tie together. So my website, I really started this new journey last year when we came to Sardinia for the summer, and we revamped the whole website. And so it's called Old Ways for Modern Days. And really the philosophy is about how we can learn from the past, honor the past, and appreciate the past, and bring those tenets into our modern life, so that these culture, the various cultures that we all grew up with or live with, can be carried on to the next generations. And being in a place like Sardinia, it's very conducive to that, because it is still a very traditional place. It's not like some other places, in Europe, where a lot of expats go, and you can go and get English-speaking doctors, for example, like I did in Brussels. It's still, people speak Italian, people speak Sardo, people speak, their specific dialect of Sardo. So there's a fly that's torturing me right now. Sorry that I keep doing this, but that's also part of Sardinia, because no screens.
Yeah. We got that.
So here's a little taste of the culture for you. Woo! So that is really what I'm focusing on right now, is still writing about food, but through the lens of anthropology, culture, tradition, and history. Mm-hmm. And so I'm loving it. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, there was a Japanese linguist who came to study Sardinia, because he said, because of the position of the island and because of how untouched it was one of the purest languages that exists, because it hasn't had changes to it. And this same thing with the architecture, the nuragis and things like that. It's like, to me, it's always been kind of a magical kind of place anyway.
It's very magical. And Sardinian or Sardo is like the language that's most closely related to Latin. Mm-hmm. So because of the isolation. So it's very much, very different from Italian. And I can't say that I speak it at all. Maybe 2 words, but that everyone who's been here long enough knows. But I mean, it's I'm still working on my Italian, but everybody speaks Italian here. I'm not sure that they really love that necessarily, because Sardinians tend to see themselves as separate from the rest of Italy. Mm-hmm. And have always been a bit cautious of outsiders, because there was a lot of invasions in the earlier history, which is why most of the Sardinian people moved to the mountains, which is why, like, for example, Sicily is an island too, and you go to Sicily and you're eating seafood all the time. You come to Sardinia and you're eating pork. We're an island too, but we're eating pork. We're eating things that are more insular, earth-based foods, because that's where a lot of the Sardinian culture and tradition raised up from, was the mountains that go through the center part of the island. Mm-hmm. And so it has a really interesting history, and I think it's really inspiring. And even though maybe Sardinians tend to be more isolated or a little bit tentative about outside influences, people are very nice here, and it is a lovely place to come and visit. Don't be scared. People are not going to be like at the borders with the pitchfork, go home. They are very welcoming. They want you to come and visit. So it's a very nice summer destination, and a great place to spend a vacation, because I think a lot of tourists come here for the beaches, because we have amazing beaches here, some of the best in the world. Yeah, it's like environmentally some of the cleanest waters in the world. But a lot of people don't see the other parts of Sardinia, which is the fact that we have, I don't remember if there's 6, like geography wise, there's like 6 bioregions that you can have in general in the world. And whatever the number is, Sardinia has all of them. So it's like a little microcosm of the whole world, because it has like every bioregion. And so it's very diverse and very, very, there's so much to do here.
Isn't it also one of the blue regions of the people who live the longest?
Yes, it is one of the blue zones areas. And we have a lot of centenarians. That's people that live to be over 100 years old, in a higher percentage than other places in the world. So I've done a lot of research on that, because that obviously, you know, from what I described before, that I love food and the history and the culture, this definitely was something that sparked my interest from the beginning. And so I have 3 blog posts about it on my blog, and I have a whole podcast episode that is devoted to this topic. So if people are really interested in the blue zones stuff, which I know a lot of people are, I hope that you will find that as a good resource.
Okay, so on your
that.
website,
and of course, I'm happy to.
On your website, you have your modern, old ways for modern days.
Yeah.
Is that the blog also? Is part of that, or do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you
Yeah,
also have
it's
a
all the same.
Patreon account now too, right?
Yeah, I just started that a few months ago, and that was I started that because I write seasonal guides every month. So every month I put out a guide that's usually around 70 pages. So it's a nice chunky thing that talks about the significance of that month and how you can use holidays, mostly like pre-Christian holidays, because I like to focus on the very distant past, and gives you activities, recipes, and history, folklore on that subject every month. So I put those out, and those are now available through Patreon, but also through my website. And then I'm also putting out booklets every month, which I started 3 months ago, on sacred foods. So I take one specific seasonal food and talk about the mythology, the magical properties of a specific food. And then we do like a ritual, and there's recipes. So
you had
that's
artichokes,
what you can
right?
get. Yeah, I started with artichokes.
They're my favorite.
Because artichokes are intimidating, you know, like if you don't know artichokes, they're like super intimidating, but you are a good friend to the artichoke. I see.
Well, I'm from California.
Many prolific.
So California
right.
has the big globes, right? So when I came here, I had to learn about all the different artichokes, because we tend to have the smaller violet ones. And then I go to Sicily a lot, and Sicily has a spiny artichoke, and each one of them has a different way that they're supposed to be treated and handled. So you can't just assume you know how to cook an artichoke.
Yeah, because there's so many different regional ways. I mean, in Sardinia we have like really spiky ones that are like very ouchy. If you're unsure and not familiar with the territory. And then my husband, even though both of his parents are Sardinian, and they're Sardinian going all the way back to remembered history, his parents both left the island when they were younger and moved to Rome, which many believe is like the artichoke capital of the world. So my mother-in-law, who still lives in Rome, did like a whole video presentation of like the 2 different Roman ways to make artichokes. And it was really cool, because she was really excited about this new thing that I was doing. I mean, she doesn't speak English, so she couldn't really like read what I was doing, but she was really excited to participate and do the videos. So it was really fun.
When I started teaching, go ahead.
No, go.
When I started teaching cooking, I brought my mother-in-law in to do a class, and she had never met an American. And so she had, except during the war, like a black soldier asked her to do the laundry and she ran away. That was her only contact really with Americans. So for her to see young 20-year-old American college kids, women, girls especially, she was just like, oh yeah, they're normal. You know, it was like really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good story. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I know the Italians, one thing that's fun about Italy is that Italians really like Americans. Have you noticed that too?
Because Americans like to have fun. They spend money, they're gregarious, they're friendly. And they support what the Italians do.
They really, I mean, it's, because, you know, I'm not like a world traveler, but I've traveled, you know, many different places. And, you know, and most of the places I've traveled, Americans are not really like that much appreciated, I think. So when I first came to Italy for the first time, I was like kind of blown away by just the amazing welcome that you're given, and you can actually admit that you're American and not try to pretend like you're a Canadian. And I know some people watching this will think that's hilarious,
but you know,
I have done that a couple of times.
The Italians still remember the Americans saved them after the war. You know, Americans.
And so many of their family ended up in America. So I think there's a very strong connection there too, because there's so many stories of people who, you know, have family that went to America and never came back.
Yeah.
So when they see an American coming back
in America, like we always talk about Uncle Sam, but they talk about the uncle because they would get checks, they would get boxes with food, clothing. The family that left always remembered the family back home and sent things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's still such a strong connection because Italian culture is still so strong. And I mean, I grew up in an Italian American home. My grandfather was from Sicily, and my grandmother's parents were from Calabria. And, you know, I remember like coming home from school, visiting them, and I was taking Spanish and I was practicing, and my grandfather was like, some of those words sound really familiar. And he's like, I'm remembering, you know, because when they came to America, like he came in their, the early 1930s, and, you know, his parents were like, don't speak Italian, don't speak Sicilian anymore. You know, we want to learn English. You're going to become American, do it. But he was always very much remembering Sicily and wanting to go back and missing it in his heart. And so, and we were very close. And so for me, you know, I didn't go back to Sicily, but I came back to the other island, and I really felt like I've been able to enjoy it for him too, in a lot of ways. And I think it makes our connection stronger. And just, you know, the words that he wasn't, I mean, I should learn Sicilian, but I'm still trying to learn Italian. But sometimes I feel like when I'm speaking Italian, it's like I'm able to speak the words that he had to unlearn.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
So many were taught to not speak the language.
I know, which is really sad. And I mean, like I said, the likelihood that he spoke a word of Italian was probably not the case, because, you know, they didn't, well, you know, I mean, they were speaking their own dialects, they were speaking their own languages.
Exactly.
Because Italy is very newly unified as compared to like a lot of other European countries.
Yeah, I started reading some Montalbano stories. You know, the one that's the TV show now, and they're actually written like Sicilians speak. So sometimes, and so it's a game I play, but sometimes I have to read it out loud so I can hear what it really sounds like, to really kind of know what they're trying to say, because the words are just, that dialect is just a little bit contorted, you know, and he's writing for people that he wants it to read. So I think a lot of the Sicilians that I had met too didn't read and write when they like first came over. And like I asked one of my Sicilian cooks that I know in the market, and I asked her how to spell something, and she can't spell it for me. But she, you know, she's never, I guess, had to. She had to leave school early or something. But it's dialect. It's not.
It's all very.
I don't think she ever saw
it
written.
Yeah, I mean, likely not, because, you know, they weren't teaching it in school. It was just what the people spoke. And then when they started actually teaching like a national language, it was Italian. Exactly. And that was really not until, you know, the 40s and 50s. So yeah, because I know like my mother-in-law remembers, you know, watching shows on TV to teach them
Yep.
to speak Italian.
Yeah,
because she grew up speaking, Sardo. So she remembers that and just how. I know, like that would be so helpful.
Wouldn't it though? Wouldn't that be great now, like for the immigrants and everything, right? I mean, they offer classes anyway.
Yeah, because there's a lot of us now.
Just to perfect it without having to go to
especially school. Right. Yeah, because it's not so easy sometimes to get to the classes. Like if you have kids or you work, it's not that easy to get to the classes. So yeah, that's
So with your
reminiscing.
St. Johns Wort,
good.
Did you make oil already?
I did. Well, yep, it's kind of doing its thing right now in my windowsill. I'll grab it for you if you want to see. Hopefully the whole place won't blow over because Sardinia is also very windy and we're having a lot of wind today. But yeah, here's my little St. Johns Wort oil. You can see it's already getting the red.
Yeah, that beautiful
red hue from it. And if you want to learn how to make St. Johns Wort oil, it's really easy. But I did a video on YouTube last year, so you can find that, I think, on my website too, because I did a blog post and linked to the YouTube video, but it's very easy. But I think it's a really highly effective remedy. I really learned about St. Johns Wort when I was, first trying to help my daughter deal with her anxiety, which kind of reared its head really from the time she was 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And I find that St. Johns Wort really, really helps people who would identify as like highly sensitive or empathic or just have anxiety. It really helps to calm down. So like I put it in the kids' bath water, which is a really easy way for them to get it. I mean, it's great to massage it in your skin as well. And I do that a lot after I shower, just do like a nice massage of it, but it's really nice. And it's very calming. And it really has helped her a lot. Like it helped her deal with night terrors and nightmares.
Because I remember back when I lived in America, the whole big thing was the Bach flower remedies. Do you remember those? And so St. Johns Wort was for like calming down and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't the oil based. So it was just, I guess, the essence. Right.
It was a flower essence. Yeah. Flower essences are more like you let fresh flowers soak in water, usually in the sun for a couple hours till they start to wilt. And then you add some kind of an alcohol to it, maybe like brandy. And then you have to succuss it, which is like you take the jar in your hand and you bang it like this, like 100 times, because then it infuses the liquids with the essence of the flower. So it is a bit of magic. I think it's very magical, the flower essences, because it's not really like taking the herb. It's more like, what does the plant have to teach us about how to deal with life or how to deal with like specific difficulties that we're going through, which is kind of, the approach that I take like a multi-layered approach to the sacred foods booklets that I started doing. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of my process in the beginning is just sitting with the plant. So whether it's the artichoke or the strawberry, and just really looking at it and saying, what is the medicine of this plant besides health properties and, the things that we can quantify through chemicals that are in the thing, but like, what is this living being trying to tell us? Why is it here, for a different purpose? Because, I really believe that everything has a soul and everything has a purpose being here, whether it's a plant, an animal, a human, and so that really comes across in my work. So I focus a lot on that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, they use the artichoke too, the Cucina, there's a bitter after dinner drink, which Italians absolutely adore. And I was telling somebody the other day, you know, when you're cleaning the artichokes and you throw away all those leaves, don't throw them away. Boil them, make the broth, use that in your cooking, drink it, you know. I remember I had something
Yes.
a million years ago, and they told me to boil olive leaves.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
plants, I mean, originally there
Olive
wasn't
leaves
pharmacies. You had to make your own, right?
Exactly. And, you know, that's just, you know, that, to go back to my story about, you know, foraging on the landscape and seeing nuragis and seeing megalithic structures and thinking, you know, the people who lived there, who built these things, I mean, they used these plants too, you know, and that is a very long connection that really connects us to our past and connects us to the past of the land on which we live, no matter where it is in the world. Which is why I think, for me, plants have been some of the greatest teachers, you know, and it started with me doing food and just loving marrying tastes together and, you know, finding out sort of like the hidden tastes of foods and how they go together, and just like finding, you know, unique pairings, and, you know, and then it just led me to like a longer story, a longer viewed story of, you know, well, historically, have these plants always grown in this place? And what did people do with them back when they didn't have ovens or, you know, crock pots, and so, you know, all those different things. And it just really, I think it opens your eyes to how rich the landscape is around you. Kitty!
My cat's coming to visit. Say hi. This is my little boy.
What's its name?
His name is Gigante. And I live next to an old olive mill. Say hi. And one day we have a lot of wild cats here that just like live in the he wants to be held, that live in the piazza. And one day a black cat, wasn't our cat, came home with a kitten this big in his mouth, and it was him. So a male cat saved this little cat who had been dropped off at the olive mill. And about 3 or 4 days later, when I was walking by the olive mill where we parked our car, I heard a cat crying. And I thought, oh, it must be the mother looking for the baby. And it turned out it was his sister. So now we have both of those too. My husband's a cat man in the piazza where we live in the middle of the countryside. People come and drop off animals, right? So at one point there were 12 cats. And then we called Italy's just so good about this. We called the volunteer association, and they came up and they got them and they sterilized them all, and then they brought them back, and it's a recognized cat colony.
That's great.
So Andrea takes care of them, but now we're down to 5 because being fixed, you know, they get run over, and there's wild boar.
They don't last.
And
right.
So.
Yeah. That's so cool.
It's funny.
Lucky kitties that they get to be with you.
In Sardegna, do people leave dogs on the streets and stuff? Or do they just keep them?
Yeah.
Puppies?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, it's interesting. There's a lot of stray dogs and cats here, but there's also just like this general idea that even if you are a dog owner, that like during the day, it's okay just to let your dog wander around, which, you know, is kind of fun if the dogs are nice. But I had one incident with a dog here with my puppy, because we just got a puppy in January. And so we got attacked by a dog. This is a really fun, it's actually a funny story now. We were pretty traumatized actually, but luckily no one got hurt, but it was scary. And now since then, my dog, because she's a border collie, she has grown, because she's now 8 months old. And this dog has not grown. And so she's a lot bigger than this dog now. And they're like friends. They are like best friends now. And it's so funny because she's a puppy and she has like a lot of really high energy. Whereas this dog is a full grown dog, but smaller, but she is like really high energy, like even more than my dog. And she just needs somebody who can like deal with her crazy energy. And so once we figured this out, we started bringing treats with us when we went on a walk.
Smart.
And giving the dogs treats together. And now, you know, she's a lot calmer when she sees us. And now the dogs actually play together, which is really nice. So it's a nice end of the story, but I still am a little nervous because I mean, we take 2 or 3 walks a day in the countryside here. And I am still a little bit nervous about meeting a random dog who might not
know.
be.
I always tell people too, like when they come on holiday here, everyone's like, oh, let's go jogging in the morning in the middle of the countryside. And I'm like, there's hunters.
Yep.
There's dogs. There's wild boar. There's snakes.
Yep.
You're not home.
Yep.
You're not home. So be careful, you know?
Right.
You have to have respect.
Yeah, just be aware that there's other situations here that you don't even know exist, you know? Yeah, so, yeah, we have a lot of wild boar here too, so got to be careful about that as well. But yeah, so it is interesting. But you know, my father-in-law, who we live in a multi-generational family here, is also a cat man, like your Andrea, and he feeds cats, and he's like your Andrea. He's like a cat man, so he feeds the cats, and it's great because the puppy loves cats. It's like her favorite. And so she loves to just watch them and she's like entertained and just, oh, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? So it's fine. It's cute. So, but it is different. It's a very different thing. And like you said, it's good to be aware of the differences and the different attitudes about pets and domestic animals in general when you come to Italy, because it's not the same.
Yeah. So what do you have planned for summer?
Yeah.
What's next on
That's
the
what
calendar?
we were just trying to figure out. Yeah, we were just trying to figure that out because school ends this Friday.
Okay.
This is Friday, last day of school here. So the kids really want to try camping this year, and I don't think they're ready for it because they still get like weirded out by random bugs that land on them and stuff. And I'm like, you guys are not really camping material, but we might try like some kind of glamping. And we also have a Jeep. So we were thinking about doing some Jeep camping possibly this summer. But there will definitely be a lot of beach time, probably more in June now and early part of July, and less later because, Val just said she's leaving. Bye, Val. Because, you know, we get so many tourists at the end of July and August, and it's like, I don't want to be in the bath of the people, the human bath.
And like with COVID too, Sardegna was white for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sardinia really has had a very good handle on the pandemic situation since the beginning, because it's one of the reasons it is the clincher reason why we stayed here, because we were not planning to move back here right now because my husband still is contracting with work in Belgium. And our plan after our 6-week summer vacation was we were going to go back. But we didn't like the way that Belgium was handling the pandemic situation. For people outside of Europe, they may not know that Belgium had like some of the worst death rates per capita in the world for like months.
Isn't that crazy?
And they made an announcement 2 days before we were supposed to get on the plane back to say, yeah, we're going to open schools with like no changes. Everybody's going to just come back, no mask, no distancing, no rotating classes, no bubbles, nothing. Just throw everybody back in the pool. And I was like, okay, I'm not ready for that. So Roberto and I had a very frank conversation, and I said, we decided the kids and I were staying in Sardegna. And if he had to go back, he had to go back. But luckily he hasn't had to go back. And we met with the school here, you know, because we were like, are there openings for the kids? You know, because it's a village. It's, you know, about 2,000 people. And like the administrator brought like their teachers to come and meet with us. And they were like, why aren't you staying? Just why are you even thinking about going back? You know, we've been planning for this all year. We've built like more classrooms. We're like taking it seriously. You know, if the kids have to be home, we do distance learning. which they didn't do in Belgium. And my daughter, you know, she has learning disabilities and special interest issues. And so she pretty much lost like 6 months of school when we were in Brussels because they did not care about,
Oh, that's too bad.
her situation. But here they were very on top of it all. And I have to say, I was really pleased with the way they did things this year. And I think Sardinia in general has been, you know, really good about the way that they've at least tried to keep the numbers down. I mean, they've had some policy issues with, you know, the Italian government in general about some stuff, but I think in general, they've been able to do what they needed to do. So I felt really good about being back here for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I think Italy was very, very strict, which a lot of people thought was crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think we really knew what everyone's dealing with, and better to be safe than sorry. And like you said, too, here too, there's so many people that are over 80 years old, you know, and they're the ones who are really being hit hard. And, you know, your nephew went on vacation in Croatia or something, came and he brought it back with him, and he comes to say hi to grandma, and, you know, grandma gets COVID, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, I think in Sardinia, and I think all of Italy in general, you know, people tend to care a lot more about families, children, and elders, which is a really big cultural difference that I have found from living both here and in the United States. And it's one of the reasons why I am happier to be here, because that jives more with my general outlook on life. You know, being a mother of small children and having an elder father-in-law who lives with us with physical disabilities. He's blind, well, legally blind, and has diabetes. So, you know, I appreciate the fact that like we're really held more by the community and cared for, instead of just being like, oh, well, you know, you can just deal with whatever is going on. Mm-hmm. So.
Is he happy to be in Sardinia?
Oh my gosh, he's happy to be back. He was a little bit skeptical about coming back because he had lived in Rome so long and really had adopted like the Roman culture. Like he speaks Roman, he speaks Roman dialect. So does my daughter, which is really funny. They make fun of her in school a lot because she speaks Roman. She's the Roman, you know. But he's really happy, and he said, like when we were going to move to Belgium, he was like, I don't know if you were going to ask me to come, but I'm never leaving this village again. I was like, okay, good. So he stayed in the place where we started renting when we moved here, and now we're back in the same place. So it's nice. It was nice to kind of have a home to come home to.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some of your favorite dishes from Sardinia?
Oh gosh, seadas.
That's like my favorite.
Which is like this amazing, it's like a giant fried ravioli that's stuffed with pecorino cheese and like just doused in honey, and it's delicious. That is definitely a favorite. I really also love the seafood fregola. Fregola is like giant couscous kind of, and you cook it very similar to risotto because it has to, you know, take in the liquid over a period of time. And they usually serve it with like a seafood mixture and broth in it, which I really, really like, because I really love seafood. So that was kind of one of my things when Roberta was like, oh, let's move back to Sardinia. And I really hadn't spent a lot of time here. I was like, great, I'm going to be like in my dream life because I love seafood so much. And I got here and was like, ew, they don't really eat a lot of seafood here. Okay.
But I think that's the same too, like in Sicily. You know, and on the island of Ischia, especially, I think Ischia maybe has more in common with Sardinia. When the Phoenicians came through, they left rabbits on the island so that they would never be hungry. And so if you go to Ischia, the dish you want to get is rabbit.
Wow, I had no idea.
So fishermen also fish and sold the fish to make money. And the wives kept animals, rabbits.
Interesting.
And right?
Yeah.
And pigs.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Whatever. So I think it's really funny that people think that seafood's the big thing, but like the butchers here, they ate the leftover things. Nobody had steak. They had all unidentified body parts, you know.
Yeah, they had all the awful, depending on your opinion.
Too, we went to this one island called Favignana, which is really famous for the tuna, where they actually, you know, hunt the tuna on the boat and everything.
Yes.
And we went there and we were told to look for this special dish, and it was like fregola, and it was like the poor people's dish, and it was done with the fish broth and everything, but it was lobster.
Oh,
Because for them, when they caught the tuna with nets, and then they would make the nets smaller, and then they'd have all the tuna, and then they'd like harpoon it and take it onto the boat. And what was left in the net was for the poor people. And
right.
it was lobster.
It was lobster. Wow, that's so that's great. I love it. Lobster.
Again, I love calling like that couscous thing too, because it looks like the fregola, and they call it something like that, but only in one village, like in Trapani, do they make couscous, and it's only with fish. You don't get pork or beef or anything else.
Interesting.
Fish.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we're actually in Sicily. They're closer to like Tunisia than they are to Italy.
Right.
You know. So.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my grandfather used to always joke that he was like part African because, you know, he's from Palermo, or like he's from a little village outside of Palermo, which is like practically right there, you know? So, yeah, but, yeah, so those are some of my favorites. And I really have become a lover of saffron, which is one of the spices that they use a lot in traditional Sardinian cooking. You know, they put it in sweets, but they also put it in the sauces and sometimes in the pasta when they make fresh pasta. And I really love the flavor of it. I mean, it's, I think, you know, the saffron that I had previous to being here had lost much of its flavor. It wasn't like
saffron.
Yeah, it's like, it was more for the color.
They cut it with like turmeric and marigolds.
Yeah. So like when I came here and got like a little bit of Sardinian saffron grown here, which was a gift from the Phoenicians to the Nuragic people here, it was like, whoa, this is not what I had tried before. And I really love the flavor.
A couple of the threads really give off a lot of flavor. And again, learning how to use it. Like I usually let it sit in the water like overnight to let it really bloom, because I think if you just throw it in the last minute for cooking, you don't get
that flavor. Yeah, it's but it's like it has such an earthy flavor, which to me was very unexpected. But it's grown on me, and I really, really enjoy it a lot, and try to use it as much as I can.
And I love that corbezzolo honey you guys have. That's hard to come by.
God, that's so good. And corbezzolo itself, like
the fruit.
This winter, I made corbezzolo jam. It's really more like what Americans would think of like as a butter, like a pumpkin butter or an apple butter, because it has the same consistency. Incredibly delicious. Wow. So good.
I found a bush around up the hill from me. You know, a lot of people have restored old houses, so that they rent out to people, or they were lived in and then they're abandoned. Like even where I park my car now, my friends lived in one place for 10 years and then they moved back to America. And the other house, there was a little old man, so his whole garden, he left.
Yeah.
So fruit trees and all this stuff that keep on producing, even if nobody takes care of them. So
exactly.
I was going to ask you, because we're getting ready now to do the green walnut liqueur. Do you guys do anything with green walnuts here? Do you have walnuts in Sardinia?
I don't think so. It's more of an almond place.
Oh, okay. Because we do the for St. John's Day, you know.
Oh, okay.
Baptist.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. So you harvest the green walnuts. And this year I'm going to try to make a jam.
That sounds really good. Does the liqueur become green?
Black.
Oh, wow.
It looks like Kahlua. It kind of tastes like a Kahlua.
Wow.
And you use the walnuts before the shell is formed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like now probably.
And what's it called?
Here it's called nocino.
Okay.
In Naples it's called nocillo.
Okay.
My girlfriend in France, we're going to be doing a presentation later this month because I went to her place once and did it. They do it with wine instead of just with alcohol. And so it's aperitif.
Nice.
That's nice. So yeah. I've been collecting all of these walnut recipes because again, you find these plants and then you get so intrigued with what they do, and then what can you do with the leftovers and tearing up the leaves, like even just like placing a piece of cheese on a chestnut leaf and then picking up the cheese and eating it, but you don't eat the leaf. But it totally changes the flavors.
Here's a mind blower, which you probably already know, but people watching may not know, is that fig leaves, you can make a tea from them that tastes like coconut.
Wow. Yeah. Cool.
It is incredible. Like, who would have thought, you know, first of all, that you could use fig leaves as they are, and it tastes like coconut. So if you ever, you know, like being in Italy, coconuts are not really so available here. You feel like you need a little bit of coconut taste, you can just grab some fig leaves, boil them in some water, and you can make it's also common to, I think they make it in France, is a fig leaf infused gin.
Oh, yummy.
Or vodka.
Yummy.
And so I made that last year, which was really, really good. But I think the favorite thing I made last year was sloe gin. So it's made from sloes, which are from the blackthorn bush. And it is very tasty. Very tasty.
Not like what we used to have at home, right?
No. It's so good though.
When you make your tea though, do you use the fresh leaves or dried leaves?
Fresh, but you can use dried too. You can dry them for the winter if you really want to have it. But I'm not really so much into the coconut taste during the winter for some reason. So I usually use them fresh, but you can dry them and they still have the same flavor, because I did try it as an experiment this winter and it tasted the same basically. So I like to make little cordials. Like, this was the first year that I took an amaro making class.
Fun.
And so I have my first amaro steeping, and I think it will be ready around the solstice. It should be ready to strain at the solstice. So I'm going to strain it for the solstice as like a, you know, like a little ritual tasting of amaro made in Sardinia. Very exciting.
Okay, so let me sign off now. So I'm going to also save this on YouTube, and I'll put a link to your website there for you. So we're going to say goodbye to our Facebook friends. And
bye, Facebook friends. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao for now.
Oh, I just moved my thing, and my girlfriend was saying that she would like to know about pane carasau.
Ah, okay.
Have you ever tried making that? My girlfriend makes it. Such a pain.
No. Because you have to have the right oven, you know, you have to have one of those wood burning ovens. I don't have one. So that is something I would love to learn to make. Maybe once things open up a bit more and my kids are a little bit older, I really want to start taking a lot of cooking classes here to learn, you know, some of the traditional stuff. So yes, Jennifer is saying it's amazing with honey, and it really is. I had it last year. I went to just get a coffee at the bar and they gave you like the aperitivo stuff. And it was fresh figs, ricotta di pecora, and honey. And it was like, oh my God. I literally ate that for weeks, because then I started doing it at home every day. It was like my breakfast. It was so good.
Because I think too, people don't know like if they've even seen the pane carasau, but it's like a big disc. Let's call it like a pizza dough, really, really, really thin. And then they bake it, it puffs up like a good, like a naan bread. And then they cut it apart, so it's 2 wafers. And so it comes out like a cracker. But you also can boil it and cook it like pasta and do it with the tomato and egg on it.
And here in the Gallura region, which is in the north of Sardinia where I live, they make a thing called zuppa gallurese, which is a layered dish of, you can use pane carasau, or you can also use spinatina, which is like a fresher version of the bread that really looks like a pita. And you basically layer it with broth, usually made from mutton and beef mixed. And then there's the peretta cheese, which is like that, it looks like a pear, you know, it's like the farm, it's like, it's kind of like, it's the Sardinian version of like a provolone. It's like shaped like a pear. It's made from cow's milk and a little bit of pecorino, and it's, oh my God, it's really that is actually one of my favorite Sardinian dishes. Darn it, forgot about that.
Well, keep asking. We have a lot of Sardinian shepherds here, because apparently after the war, when they cut down all the trees in Sardinia, a lot of the shepherds left. and they went
Oh,
all
wow.
over of Italy. And so we have
Huh.
tons in Tuscany. Tons. So
Really?
we're really famous for our pecorino cheese here. And it's funny because I have one Sardinian that's like across in Chianti, an hour away, about 45 minutes away. And like 10 minutes from my house, I have a Sicilian.
Nice.
And they both make pecorino cheese, but they have their little differences. And it's
Yep.
kind
Yep.
of,
And then in Tuscany, you guys have your own pecorino fresco, which is like incredibly delicious.
we have that
It's
March
one of my favorite cheeses.
that they make in March. Let me just stop the recording here.
Okay.
Say thanks to Jenn and see her online. Jenn with 2 N's campusauthor.com. Bye-bye.